Good morning and welcome back to Coffees with Toffees, your morning show. Oops, the music did not stop. Your morning show for gamers, by gamers. Excited to be here with you as we are every morning. And if you like the cast, you can follow me at Toffees_Dota2 to find out when we're doing shows and what time they're on, as well as actual casting that I do most of the time. That said, I'm joined today by our special guest in-house. It's Joseph Helium Cunningham, a staff caster for Sivo. How are you doing today, Helium?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. A little tired, so excuse the voice as I did literally just roll out of bed and sit in my chair.
Perfectly all right. I appreciate you doing that today. And the reason that I dragged Helium out of bed today is our goal is we're going to go over a recap of the group stages thus far, and then we're going to actually talk about the games that are coming up today and maybe make some picks for you guys as to which games are worth watching, being that it's day 3. So teams are being eliminated at this point, and they're going to be eliminated fast and furiously today. So some games, especially towards the end of the day, probably aren't going to be all that relevant. We also have to kind of take into account which teams are going to be on the up and which ones are going to have some really hard strengths of schedules today. But we'll go through all of that the best we can, and then obviously give you your little dose of news at the end, as well as a potato salad update, because it's becoming sort of a thing, and it makes me laugh. So
Still going on?
Still going on. 23 more days, man. We're tracking how much money this guy's going to make off of potato salad. But first and foremost, let's talk about the recap. So what I've got, I pulled it up on the screen for those of you who are watching our YouTube redo. For those of you who are listening to the RSS feed, I will read down for you real quick. Taking the lead, huge swing after yesterday. VG, and DK, baby, are the top two. No big surprise there. The Chinese teams came out yesterday and freaking dominated, man. 7-1 for VG. DK is 6-3 after having a really rough first day. Third and fourth is Invictus and EG, so more Chinese teams at 6-3, and EG at 6-3 as well. So keep in mind that is two Chinese teams and an American team tied for second place right now. Tied in the 5th place spot is Liquid, Titan, and Cloud9. Cloud9, a little bit of a fall from grace yesterday, but still sitting in a pretty comfortable spot after pulling out a nice win at the end of the day. Natus Vincier is sitting in the 8th spot at 5-3. That is a big deal because they have less games played than a lot of the other teams. So their first game today is going to be pretty important to figure out where they're actually standing. And the last two rounding up the non-elimination spot are Newbie and Narv. Everyone else is not, as of now, is not advancing. We're talking Fnatic, Alliance, Team Empire, LGD, Arrow, and Mouse Sports. Some of those names you probably aren't surprised by. Some of those names you're probably like, oh, what? Alliance in the red? That's unexpected. Now, keep in mind, they had one hell of a run yesterday to get themselves tied up into that 10th spot, and I expect them to do nothing less today. So those are the points as they stand now. That's what we're remembering, keeping in mind as we go into the games today, because today is the final day of the qualifier playoffs. At the end of today, the top 10 teams move on, and the bottom 6 go home. So this is a pretty big day in terms of, especially the first, I would say, 6 rounds of Dota today.
Yeah, well, today's going to be the day that really decides things. Like, today teams can be officially out, because no one's officially out. I mean, Arrow's obviously on the break,
right,
but there is 3 4-game series on July 12th. So
that's true. That's true. Now. So that I think will be some good maybe seed definers, but I think we should probably see, I would say, the bottom 4 teams at least get marked off the ticket today. That's my prediction.
Probably. Well, I can go through some of the rounds from yesterday because I took notes on all of them. I got inspired for some reason. I'm not at TI. I'm going to pretend like I was. So,
that's fine with me.
Round 1 starts off with a crit, a boom, some bass, and some tremble as Earthshaker from Koifka on Liquid. Liquid starts the day 3-1, going up against Fnatic 3-2. They take Earthshaker mid, played by Koifka. He goes Phase, Blink, Crystallis, BKB. It's a 1k gold advantage per minute throughout the entire game. Earthshaker ends the game with a victory and a 1300 crit. So that was a pretty... I mean, watch that game. It was really quick. So if you're watching this, you got time before the game start up at noon Eastern.
Oh, which game are you suggesting we watch highlights of?
Liquid Fnatic.
All right, I'm gonna write down all of your highlighted from yesterday games so that we can have At the end, I'll re-summarize them for you guys so that you can quickly jot down which games Helium thinks you should watch recaps of.
Yeah, they'll be spoiled at that point, but
that'll be fine though. It's still worth watching the. To go in and watch this, the skill of player, the level of the games is even if you know the wins.
Highlight feature on the replays. It's actually kind of cool.
Absolutely.
All right, so next game in round 1, Empire Na'vi 1-3 versus 3-1 Na'vi US, I should say. Na'vi US, they're up early. They've got explosive cores. They've got Tide Ursa PA, so you need to watch out for the burst damage. It's all melee. They're up 6 kills early on in the game. Questionable fight bottom. Questionable black hole from Na'vi US. Suddenly, it's 6-7. Empire Strikes Back, as the caster said. Also a good movie. You should watch that. High ground defense, 25 minutes. That's how pressured Na'vi US has become. There's a PGG hole for those newer to Dota. That means a black hole from Enigma that didn't hit anybody for Na'vi US. And the game is lost at just about 28 minutes. And then IG versus Mouse, not a whole lot of notes here. Really bad first blood attempt. I think Mouse lost 2 or 3.
Yeah.
IG is 3-1 right here. Mouse is 1-3. Standout performance, YYF Doom. You should ban it. Don't let YYF have Doom, but he's pretty versatile. And then Titan Newbie. Newbie continued their slump. Titan, it's a very, very even game. 13-13 at 30 minutes in. Net, I gave him, because Titan gets the victory here. Net on the Sand King for Titan. I gave him MVP. He was 1-4-17, so involved in 18 kills, only 4 deaths. Good KDA there. So round 1 though, Liquid Fnatic. That game was hilarious.
Excellent. So that was our
round.
I would say yeah. So let's what we should do is I like the recap, but let's go through maybe 1 or 2 from each round that you thought was worth talking about maybe, and then if you saw a game that was definitely something that we should rewatch, that's what I'd love to hear about. But like I said, I worked all day yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to watch the game, so the recap's actually really helpful, and I think our viewers will really enjoy that as well. So
yeah, all right, round 2, I guess. I don't know, I don't have as many notes here. IG 4-1 versus EG, so that's a really big name just in terms of what those teams were expected to do. They let Doom through again. Mistake. IG, take it. YYF's Doom, very strong. EG started that game 3-2. They ended 3-3, but they started to have a good day from there. Na'Vi plays Cloud9. Na'Vi EU. They looked very shaky in their first game of yesterday, but they're 3-1 at this point. They take down Cloud9. They're 4-1. That was Dendy's Tinker game, and he was incredibly good. Also, notable performance. Bone7's Puck and sort of the offlane, like duo offlane for Cloud9. Really, really good. He's been on some interesting heroes. Okay, well, this is more than 2, but I wrote down game of round is DK versus Arrow, which is surprising because Arrow's 0-5.
Right.
DK is 2-3. Landon was hospitalized. Dehydration, I don't know, climate change, whatnot, stress. I mean, it's stressful.
Well, I'm sure there's crazy amounts of stress to this thing.
But he was okay, and this game was crazy. Arrow fought really, really hard, and actually DDZ on Invoker for Arrow got 2 Ultra kills from Beyond the Grave this game.
Really?
Which was interesting. Kunkka, I think, is responsible for that on DK, because, you know, the Coco's Rum, that gets you down to 1 HP.
Right.
And then Invoker has Forge Spirits and Necro units, and also like buyback into Sunstrike, so he got 2 Ultra kills from that, basically from the grave. So standout performance there.
Excellent. So that is round 2. Recap on round 3. What did you see out of that one?
Well, Vici Gaming continued to do well. They take down Na'Vi US. That's now 2 losses in a row for Na'Vi US, so they even it out at 3-3 for the day. Super on an Ember Spirit. He's played that here a couple times. He's doing well. At 12 minutes in, it's close net worth. Like Vici Gaming's running a 1-roll Pugna, so they're definitely pushing pretty hard. They're also leading by kills at the 12-minute mark, 22-minute mark. It's 6-12, so Vici Gaming's doubling up. And then a couple minutes later, at 29 minutes, we can see Vici Gaming. They've got Doom out front on the net worth, and then Ember and Pugna, so the 3 cores dominating on the net worth. At 37 minutes, they win. So Vici Gaming, 4-1 now, 5-1 at this point in the day. Let's see what other games before I just read all of them. Okay. I think Titan's been playing really well.
Yeah, they have. I've been really
Titan
impressed.
Titan versus Navi EU. I think it's also part of that round. It's a
Hmm.
long game. It's 58 minutes. Navi is out ahead like 10k with the usual Navi style, like pickoffs when the lanes kill you a lot. But
Right.
they can't push in KYXY for Titan on his Naga Siren. He
Hmm.
crawls back. It's a long ass game, but
The
Titan does win it, and it's definitely worth watching.
Yeah, I would say definitely watch that game, but watch the highlight reel on that one because
Yeah.
it was. I don't want to use the word tedious, but it was a master's class in holding the high ground and making a team essentially just work for every single inch. And it seemed like at the end of that game, and I don't know if you can verify this or not, but I felt like Navi got very frustrated with the need to take the high ground and started
Well, 'cause
really
they did.
yeah, well, yeah, but I felt like they started over-investing themselves on maybe some mediocre choices, and it just kind of every time they'd give up a kill, they'd take a little more ground back for Titan, and it just broke apart at the end. That Naga Siren, who was it? Is that the Naga game where she didn't get her radiance up till something like 32 minutes? Do you remember?
I'm not quite sure, but that seems okay. Like you said, Navi making questionable decisions, feeling
Yeah.
forced to end the game. I wrote down here 31 to 32 minutes. Navi feel they have to fight against the clock as they go up against Titan, and they try to force the high ground in the top lane, and they can't.
Yeah.
And then at 37 minutes, which is just 5 minutes later, the net worth switches. It's Naga and Doom for Titan, who lead in the net worth, and then Viper and Enigma, who is a jungler support, but basically a core because it does get so much farm.
And it just sort of falls apart. The wheels fall off of the wagon from that point. So definitely an interesting game. I think definitely worth a highlight watch for sure.
Yeah, and then Alliance and Mouse were both 1-4. First game of the day for both of those teams. Alliance wins, Mouse doesn't, and that trend continues for the day.
Yeah, yes, it does. And Mouse takes a huge tumble down the bracket. So we'll talk about that in a little while. What about Series 13?
Yeah, so I guess I realized later on it was turning into they were just numbering them from the start. So round
Right.
4, series 13. What do we have in here? EG versus Newbie. Newbie continue their slump. Both of these teams are even at 3-3 going into this game.
Right.
EG they leave with the victory. They're 4-3. Let's see. Queen of Pain was in this game. She's getting some play. Moo has been doing well on her. He's also been doing really well on Brewmaster, so Moo's Brew. That's pretty easy to remember.
That's true.
But it's EG, it's Mason who has a Brewmaster here. He does well. Arteezy gets some double kills. Mason gets a Manta style on the Brewmaster, which was a really interesting pickup. Mott seemed complexed by it. I don't really know why. Like, it was an interesting pickup, but you're going against Skywrath, which
Right.
is sort of the hero, and a Quap, who I'm sure had an Orchid.
Right.
So you need to get out of that silence. So he picks up the Orchid as opposed to just using his BKB over and over and over again to break out of it. It's interesting. We might see more of it because those heroes don't seem to be going anywhere.
Yeah.
Big
definitely.
Roche fight kind of decides it, and Newbie on a 4-game loss streak at that point. So pretty good game. Let's see what else is in this round real quick. Arrow had some really good games, actually. The Titan Arrow game, Titan 4-2, Arrow 0-6. Really close, 44 minutes, but Titan takes it in the end.
Yeah, they were using a lot more aggression yesterday. I felt like there was a lot of try to get the pre-clock pickoffs, try to pace the game, try to manage it, and it just wasn't working into the late game. But they played 100 times better yesterday than they did the day before. That's for sure. So
I just looked at your stream. Do you have the Dota International mug as well?
do I have the what?
The international mug for Dota 2?
I don't. It's actually a NASCAR mug.
Oh.
I just got it from Goodwill. I wish I had the
Or-
TI mug. If they wanted to send me something,
America.
I'd use it. America, right? No, I have a bunch of NASCAR stuff that I ironically wear on the 4th of July every year.
Nice.
I lived in Indy, so we'd go watch the like the Brickyard and stuff and drink heavily. But that said, let's talk about series. I think we're on 15. No, 14.
14.
Series 14
Yeah.
/ number 5.
Yeah, and just before we leave, DK picks up their roaming support Juggernaut for Lanham in round 4.
Oh, is
And
that the
they do it
round
again
4?
later.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay, so that was around. Oh, because I want to watch him play that.
That was DK Cloud9 in Series 13.
Okay. DK C9 Jugs. Got it.
And game was good. Lanham is a genius.
And on the 4th round, Helium said the game is good.
Yeah.
so Lanham's a genius, and I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. Let's go to the next series.
No, it's fine. Alliance, Empire, both teams 2 and 4. So again, it's just like the previous game with Malice versus Alliance 1 and 4. It's must win for both of them. It's not really must win, but realistically, it kind of is. Alliance, they take it. It was a 35-minute game. It was pretty dominant here. Alliance, they seemed hesitant to pick Batrider on day one, but they pick it up here. S4 runs it mid. They have got a Wraith King, a Potom, an SD, and a Lone Druid. So Admiral Bulldog gets a win on that Lone Druid finally. Round 5. So the Chinese teams, or I guess I should say the Asian teams, because Aero and LGD, they struggled early in the tournament and still kind of are, but they beat Liquid, who are 5-1. And yeah, it was a dominant performance. Like LGD breached the high ground at 17 minutes.
Yeah,
not a lot happens there, but 2 minutes later, it's 14-7. LGD leads. High ground broken. Bottom racks fall, and then a few minutes later, Team Liquid lose a Roche fight, and LGD wins.
Yeah, that was I thought that was a pretty good game, and a much needed win for LGD, and a tough loss I think for Liquid, who, I mean, it was coming off of beating some of the huge teams in this tournament, so I think that was a pretty good one. I remember watching that and watching that very fast high ground breach. So,
and then game of the day, Navi US versus IG. Game lasts a while. Navi US do take it. Snaking can play the Naga Siren just as good as anyone else. He kind of kept them in the game for like 40, 50 minutes, but MVP, honestly, Kurok on Earthshaker, he made some plays in the last 10 minutes of that game. Ridiculous double kills, killing the cores. So Crit Shaker could very realistically become a thing.
Yeah.
It looks like Navi were going to win it for like a while, but they're being cautious, right? They're playing IG style. They're being safe. You know, they're pushing the lanes, making sure they're not going to lose ground anywhere. But then they're like, hey, you know, we're from the U.S. Let's throw this game at 52 minutes. It gets a little bit ridiculous. But then 6 minutes later, IG's trying to break high ground in the top lane. They're like, hey, we're playing the U.S. Let's throw this game. They dive tier 4s at like 58 minutes, and they lose. I guess they felt pressured because they weren't ever going to get that opportunity again. And they were like, we need to end it. We need to kill them all. Like, they don't have buybacks. And the only way IG really stay in it, though, I tried to switch up taking notes here because it was like so ridiculous. I'm doing this like soccer/football style, like writing down the minute mark, writing down the score, some of the net worths, like notable things that happened just when I seemed to glance at the 4 streams. But I was like, I'm gonna write down like combos, like did they work? So picking up Nyx versus Skywrath. It makes sense because the end game is ridiculous. It didn't really work because the silence shuts down Nyx. Like he can't even use the mana burn because he just gets silenced. Void Mirana. Arrow setup with the Chrono, it was Void Invoker, Sunstrike, Refresher Void, I have the most stars next to that. YYF is quite a player. And then the Echo, Naga, Skywrath setup, the ES Fisher setup with Sky, also really good. But I stopped that format, so we won't have that tangent again.
Fair enough. It was a good combo, though. I enjoyed watching it. I think I went to sleep watching that game last night because that was the only thing I heard about when I got home from work was the massive Na'Vi versus IG win. So, game of the day, if you were going to watch one replay in its entirety, you can probably go to that. If you don't want to spend 70, I think it was 73 minutes or something like that watching the game.
It was a long one.
You can watch the last 20 minutes. Last 20 minutes give you a pretty good feel for how the combos looked, as well as the back and forth section that Helium talked about.
And the Kurok plays were between 68 minutes and 70 minutes.
There you go.
I see that is down. I wrote Korok, woo!
So just watch Na'Vi versus IG post 60 minutes if you're running short on time, and that should be more than enough to really get a good feel for one of the best games of the series so far, in my opinion. So there's our picks for 14. Let's talk about Series 15.
Yeah, Series 15, so Fnatic, Vici Gaming. Vici Gaming's 5-1, Fnatic's 3-4. They've had a rough day. I mean, still close games, but rough. And Vici Gaming, take it, 6-1. They're doing well. However, today, schedule is a bit harder, so we'll see if Vici Gaming can keep up form.
Absolutely.
And I guess we'll get to that. Interestingly enough, they have a farming Venno for ROTK. 33-minute push wins them the game. And then we've got a pretty big game. Navi EU 4-2, EG 4-3. EG take it, putting both of those teams at 4-3. And it was a slow game. First play
Yeah.
came in 6 minutes. Universe on the Void picked it up from his off lane where he does play so well. At 22 minutes, it was 7-7. And then this is where it really starts to escalate. It's suddenly 7-9, 8-12, 8-13, 10-16, 11-20. As we
Wow.
go the next 10 minutes, what they get 13 kills on the side of Evil Geniuses, and Navi only get 4. Pretty much decides it. EG wins.
Right.
Navi had their sniper that game. Fun to watch. Okay, so important game. 1 and 6 Mouse goes 0-7 Arrow. Actually, really quick. Mouseports wrecked this game. So
Really?
GG Mouseports in 21 minutes. I wrote down that escalated quickly.
I think both knew that they had to do something, and Mouse just maybe did it a little bit faster. But it was good to see Mouse do. I don't know. I feel like that's Mouse's style of play, and they just haven't been able to do it this
Yeah, it
season.
is.
Is they everybody shuts them down now. So it was nice to see them actually get a game where they got up and running quickly. I will say that because I enjoy mouse sports quite a lot under normal circumstances. I just feel like here, for whatever reason, I'd love to meet, like have a chat with a mouse guy and say what's going on. They just haven't been on their game this week, and it definitely has been showing.
Yeah, I'll try and find MSS when I'm at 2A4. I'll ask him.
Yeah, exactly. That would be wonderful if you would just if you could just go around and ask him, "Hey man, why have you been sucking lately?" And then come on the show and
Dude,
tell
MSS,
us.
MSS is for me. I mean, I haven't focused too much on any game individually because
Yeah.
obviously I had to look at all of them for this. But MSS has played a ton of different roles
Yeah.
and a ton of different heroes, and I think he's a young player too, so I think he's been standout for that team.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so Series 16.
Yeah, and DK beat Empire to continue their undefeated streak of the day, so that was a big story. Titan EG, pretty close game, actually. Titan's up in kills for a while. Something sort of happens at 30 minutes. There's a big team wipe for Titan. Titan go 5 for 1. It's about approximately 10k shift in gold and XP. Like, the game was pretty close at this point. IG was slightly ahead, but it's a big shift in favor for Titan. And then at 33 minutes, IG are back in it. It's suddenly 17-17. So they must have picked off 4-0 on the side of IG. And then just a couple minutes later, IG are 2 racks up. They should win. They do win 10 minutes later at 43 minutes. Good game there. He finally get a much-needed win against Cloud9. They went into that 3-4. Cloud9 was 4-3, so the flip-flop scores. And they even up. Newbie goes 4-4. Cloud9 4-4. Ultra kill for Moo on a TA, and I think this is when I took my dogs outside because there's not many notes, but ultra kill for TA. Net worth was TA for Newbie, Morana for Cloud9, and Weaver for Newbie, so you can see their cores, their armor reducing core heroes at the top of that net worth chart.
And I think that an important game to, as far as scores go, was the Na'Vi going down to Alliance after having just beaten IG. It was a huge turn after a really big high, kind of a low for them. But more importantly, it was big because Alliance had lost to IG previously. So it essentially is a table evener for the IG Alliance showdown, which I think a lot of us expected Alliance to be in the top 4 coming into this stage of the game. So them taking that game and IG losing one was really important for them to try and maintain their position in the seeding. So just a sidebar there, and we've got 2 more rounds to do some recap, and then we'll talk a little bit about the overall feel for the teams during the tournament.
Yeah, and then I'll stop holding your talk show hostage.
No, you're
here.
fine. It's actually nice. I don't usually get to drink coffee while we actually have coffee with Toffees. Now I get to like sip it. It's pleasant.
Yeah, I was actually thinking, since it is called Coffee with Toffees, we should probably like say what coffee we're drinking, right? Like try new things.
That's
I don't know.
true. That's true. I'm drinking Captain Dickinson's French Roast Blend.
Captain, he sounds very French.
He's super classy, and I'm doing it with my red French press here. That's how I like to brew my coffee, because then I can bring it with me afterwards.
Nice. Well, I guess I'm not drinking coffee right now because I'm gonna go back to sleep after this. But
there you
the
go.
last time I was here, I just finished a whole bag of Seattle's best, like number 5, Dark Intense.
Dark
It's really
Intenso.
good.
It's funny, the younger you are, the more intense your coffee. And I still am doing it, though I feel like it's time for me to move to like the breakfast blend, you know? That's it.
Pretty good too.
I do like breakfast blend a lot, actually. Usually I like the lighter coffees first thing in the morning, and the dark ones late at night when we have long casts. But Series 17, what's your story there?
Yeah, so this one starts off with, what is this, Cloud9 Avicii. That's just to find my place because I stopped writing down the header of what round it was. Because like that Navi US game versus IG went so late, like everything was, there was 2 rounds from the previous and 2 rounds in the present, so like it was really
Right. Yeah,
confusing later on.
this was Newbie, VG, Aeronar, Navi LGD, and Fnatic Alliance.
Yeah, so Newbie continued their plummets into the
Yeah.
depths. Actually, I think they had got a win previously, so they have won once today after losing 4 in a row. But VG
Yep.
Gaming stopped that again. Super is just too good, apparently. The VG goes in 6-1, Newbie's 4-4, and VG leaves with the victory. So they are 7-1, and that's what they will remain until today.
Yep.
Hard schedule, but they definitely can take it. But no undefeated teams and no unvictorious teams either, which
Right.
is good. 15.5 minutes, super triple kill on that Razor. Been a lot of triples and ultras for Razor players, especially Arteezy. Tank teamfight heroes, no problem is what I wrote down, because Newbie, they have Brood, they've got Doom, they've got Wraith King, and so those are their sort of tanky melee heroes that are very popular. Banana supporting on the Wraith King, and then Sansheng on Ancient Apparition. Hard to push into,
Yeah.
and Bat on Jiaowei, kind of hard to push into, but not when you do it this early. At 14 minutes into the game, it's 5-6. VG have 6 of their towers standing. Newbie have 0. High ground is breached. Tier 3 is damaged. At 15 minutes, the Tier 3 falls. Then the triple kill for Super. Racks are down at 15 minutes. So tanky teamfight heroes, not a problem. Just end it in 16 minutes. And
Right.
VG Gaming, the GG's called it 18. So dominant performance for them.
Absolutely. Any other games in that series you think were worth mentioning as far as gameplay is concerned?
Arrow
Yeah.
Gaming.
Arrow beats Gnar, man. I mean, that's huge.
I
after
love these guys. I really do, especially DDZ and Johnny. I think they're the
Yeah.
standout players. Arrow becomes the NA Slayers. They take out Navi US. That's the first win, 1-8, and it's a pretty quick game. DDZ
Yeah.
ultra kill at 26 minutes on his Invoker. He's got quite a few of those this tournament. It's the first win, and then we can just jump ahead because it's the same.
It's the same
Same
group, yeah.
story. Arrow Gaming in the next round, 1-8, and they beat Liquid, who
Yeah.
are now 5-3. Liquid started out super hot.
Super
They
hot.
ended yesterday hot. Started this day hot. Now they're cooling down. They've lost twice. And
Yeah.
Arrow beats them again. Mosin, the Ravage Stealer, is what I have written down for this game. Rubik,
Yep.
he's got a Blink Dagger. He literally stole Ravage away from Demon every single time.
Wow.
And yeah, my notes include some curse words. Arrow probably wins. GG Arrow, sad face.
Sad face. Sad
I
face.
mean, I'm still
Liquid.
happy, but
Right. Well, I mean, you know, for those of you watching from other places, you know, this show does originate out of North America, so there is maybe a little bit of a bias from time to time over the North American teams, mostly because myself, Helium, and a lot of our normal guests work for or cover North American tournaments primarily. So if you want us to be more fair to the other countries, just hire us to do your tournaments, and we'll talk very lovingly about them, because it's just because you build relationships with players while you're sitting in the lobby. And for those of you who may not be casters or don't know, or just kind of watching to get the recap, one of the best parts of being a caster is the fact that you spend a lot of time in lobby with these players previous to games, waiting for loaders,
where
things
they
like that.
ignore you.
Well, a lot of them ignore you, but over time you start to at least get to know their personalities, even if it's just them talking to each other. So you start to develop you start to like a team a lot based on interactions in those lobbies. So apologize on bias. We just spend a lot more time with the US guys more often than not. Though the big story is the fact that Arrow Gaming took out NAR and they took out Liquid, 2 teams that were doing really well on the tables, lost to teams that have essentially lost to everybody else out there. So that is going to hurt them in the seeding process, especially if they go in tied up for one of those last positions. Then that really comes into play, and that could be a huge problem.
Yeah. I mean, Arrow Gaming, though, they're not out of it. So
No.
only the bottom 6 are being eliminated. If they
Yep.
end 7-8, then they're on that fringe position, like, pretty much guaranteed, I think.
Yeah.
So it could be a big day for them today. They've got the skills to do it. I mean, there was a Reddit thread. The team's 2-8, and there was a thread that Arrow Gaming is playing out of their mind. So
They are. They're
they
not.
really are.
They're not really getting upset. They're just barely hitting the. They're making a couple of small mistakes, and they're just getting caught out in situations. And I mean, at the end of the day, they took out two of the teams that were in the top of the brackets to wrap up their day yesterday. So maybe they finally got their feet under them. Maybe today, I think that's my idea for today is watch for Arrow Gaming. They're playing with their backs against the wall. They're in desperation mode. Those last two wins were basically do or die wins for them, and they are going to be for the rest of the day today. So they're going to be playing out of their mind. If they've got pocket strats, they'll be using them today.
Yeah, and another big game from Series 17, or Round 8 as I called it. Fnatic, 3-5. Alliance, 4-4. So I'm kind of happy with the result because I want both of these teams to move on to the next round. Call me biased, whatever. They're great. They're great fun. Like, Alliance are the champs from TI3,
Right.
so it's hard to see them go now. And Fnatic, who doesn't love them? You're lying if you don't.
Right.
Fnatic wins, so they're 4-5. Alliance 4-5. Not the best position. That slows Alliance down, as they had a great day. My notes here says Capitalist sucks at camera. LOL. Missed the first 2 kills when they switched to him on the multi-stream. Cap is obviously amazing, and Cap Waga has actually been one of my favorite combos.
Right, they've been doing really well.
So I'm looking forward to meeting them. Obviously, we know Cap pretty well.
Right. Well, I don't. I know of Cap.
Yeah, I do. He will soon, probably, if you keep up your morning show. So yeah, looking forward to meeting them. Should be fun. Get
Now,
ready to drink some Red Bull.
Was Cap controlling the cam at that point, or was it one of the? I think they have 2 or 3 dedicated cameramen there, don't they?
Yeah, I think Scriffin and Wepis are more for LD and Toby. I think is where they're trying it out, because like those are going to be the casting pairs for the main stage. Like Guy probably won't be casting at the main event.
I wouldn't be surprised if they moved Guy to camera.
On the panel.
Actually,
yeah, they've been doing well.
They've been doing a great job. I've actually been really impressed with them. And I think a lot of folks, when they got the invite, were like, who are these guys compared to some of the others? But they've been representing themselves. Their notes alone and their preparation for games is freaking ridiculous. So
kind of inspired me to do this, to be honest. Guy always posting his damn notes on Twitter.
Right? Like, he makes the rest of us feel like we are lazy casters, because I only come up with, notes for the show that look like this instead of 26 miles of information. But I respect what they do, and I would not be surprised to see them doing some analyst work in the finals. So, true and good point. Now, do you have any other games that you want to talk about from the series, or should I just go over the recap of Helium's picks real quick?
Newbie beats Mouse, so they're sort of on the up and up. They're 5-5. Mouse 2-7. That's where they end the day. Arrow beats Liquid. We already sort of went over that. Navi EU beats LGD. An expected win. 24 minutes. Navi pretty much run over that game. So interesting. Who had it? I think Fnatic in a round had IO Tiny. Was it Fnatic? I don't know. Someone had IO Tiny and did terrible with it. And then, okay, I wrote it down. I can probably figure this out. Okay, IO Tiny not working for Navi US. Navi EU wants to show them how it's done, and they really do. So Navi EU wins with it that game, and it was Navi US who tanked with it. That's the game they lost against Arrow.
Okay. That makes sense.
And that's pretty much all I got. Those were the standout games. On the last page, Titan versus EG. Okay, pretty even up until, like, not really, pretty even until like 14 minutes. EG start taking kill after kill after kill.
The EG style.
EG, like, Titans trying to get anything they can off of the map, and they finally do, but it's EG denying a bottom tier 1. They're up like 5k gold and XP, 23 minutes, complete map control, uncontested Roche, and getting a tower. Oh no, Titan takes a tower, a tier 1 only for EG getting a Roche. And Waga was on point with some of his quotes at this point in the day. It's late, he's tired, and he's saying hilarious things. The one I remember, Dire, so EG does the Roche. He's like, if you're playing Dire and you're not using your Roche advantage, why are you playing Dire? Which I thought was a great quote.
Yep.
And then he managed to pull out, EG is playing Fearless, which I thought was a good one. As of course, Fear benched injury, he's coaching.
Right.
So I guess they're really not fearless, but
Waga
laughed at himself, and I laughed as well. GG EG at like 39 minutes.
Nice. I think my favorite chuckle at yourself moment of the entire tournament, though, has been I don't know if you heard the Bruno multicast
Bruno, yeah,
comparison.
he's been pretty good.
Well, he just came on and was like, Org Magi was getting stomped on day one, and he goes, I guess his multicast isn't as strong as ours. Now going over to, and I lost it sitting there at my desk. I was like, that was pretty good. So he's been doing a great job. Everyone's been doing a great job. Like, I have been super impressed. Even casting pairs or duos that aren't, my personal favorites, and everybody obviously has their style that they like. Everyone's been doing a pretty solid job, especially after the day one tech issues were worked out. It's been pretty cool to see some rising stars in the grouping or the caster analyst industry stepping up and doing some really good stuff. I've been really impressed with what is hip on the analysis panel. He's been really strong, doing a great job of helping to direct the conversations. And he's somebody who we didn't really get to see on analysis panels ever before that I know of. So he stepped up and did it for the first time. Has been doing a really great job. So kudos to what is hip. If he ever happens to watch this probably won't happen, but still, good to give kudos when it's due. So quick recap.
I mean, that's kind of Greg's role. Greg, yeah. I call him Greg. For some reason, sometimes you take people's handles and refer to them. Like I call you Toffees. Greg, I just call Greg.
Yep. I bounce between. It's because what is hip is a lot harder to say than Greg.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't really roll off the tongue. But he started off in the scene with, Around the Fountain, right. I think was like his first chat show. Yep. And then he had the chat wheel, which I was a guest on, which was awesome. And then the show got really popular, which wasn't as cool. Well, it was cool, but I had already been on it at that point, and no one cared. It was, yeah, so that's sort of what he does. Like, his casting is pretty good. I've cast with him. I enjoy it, but I think he really, really shines on a panel, and obviously Val feels the same way.
I think that's absolutely true. So he's doing a great job on the hosting. Real quick, from the Helium Pick feature today that we just ran through, games to rewatch if you're going for some replays was Liquid versus Fnatic, DK versus Arrow, Titan versus Na'Vi, the Juggernaut from the C9, the DK versus C9 game, just to have some fun with that
DK
one.
DK ran that twice, so just look for DK Juggernaut.
Yep, DK Jugs, and then Nar IG is the game of the day pick from him. Remember to maybe watch the last 20 minutes if you're short on time, but that was a wonderful game. And finally, if you want to get some good casting and see Waga and Cap at the end of their day, but the top of their game, EG versus Titan was a great game to watch. And finally, sage quotes from Helium: don't give Doom to YYF. And that is a note that I wrote down there. So if you're watching games, or anybody, right? He is ridiculously strong right now, which is a great turnover for me. Let me pull up the list of picks this week. So as of now, for the tournament so far, the most picked hero, drum roll, here it comes, is Skywrath Mage at 44 games. His win rate is at 45%. He's been almost primarily in that support role. He is one of those emerging supports. He's going to be a meta changer for I honestly don't think he'll go too far past TI. I think once TI is over, there's a lot of answers to Skywrath Mage, so I don't think he'll be around too much longer, but he's been a great addition. Razor, second most picks. Those two are leading it far and away. He's been picked 42 times. His win rate still also at that 4-7. Next, in the next grouping, there's a whole bunch. It's Doom, Shadow Shaman, and Mirana are picked 33, 31, and 30. So they're kind of like this tier 2 pick grouping is what I want to say of heroes that are getting picked. Now keep in mind this is not...
Much better win rates, though.
Oh my gosh, their win rates are phenomenal. In fact, Shadow Shaman, I noticed this yesterday. I think Nahaz was talking about it over on Twitch, or not Twitch, Twitter, was the fact that Shadow Shaman's win rate was like plus 50% yesterday. At the end of yesterday, he's sitting at 61% on his win rating, which is insanely high for a Dota hero during a tournament like this. So, and what do you think? Is there a reason? Do you attribute that to anything, like these picks, why they're coming in, like why they're working or not working? What's your take on the pick meta that we're seeing develop this during this TI?
Yeah, I had some thoughts. I mean, Skywrath is just getting picked up because he does have so much burst. The silence is fantastic.
Silence is amazing.
I kind of think of Skywrath as good counters to Razor and Doom. Because like, Doom doesn't have a lot of armor, but he's got a lot of HP, and he does build armor items. So like the 6-second silence early on is essentially a Doom, right? Because no one has a Manta, no one has a BKB, so you can kill the Doom. And ideally, you can kill that Razor pretty quickly as well. before he zaps a lot of damage.
Right.
So those heroes are kind of in like a bit of a weird triangle, right? And there's even more. It's like a square because Faceless Void is kind of countered by the Razor. He's kind of countered by the Doom. Like Razor can get that. You can put the static link on, click it, and then when Void jumps in, like static link goes off, he chronos. He's got no damage. I kind of figured that was going to happen before these qualifiers even started. Like, right, I was casting the MSI Beat qualifiers by myself, and I was like, I think Razor's the answer to Faceless Void.
Yeah.
And I got picked up a couple times, even in those qualifiers. That's a big tournament, by the way. It's like 44K with the land finals, so that should be good post-TI. But yeah, I think that's why Razor and Void are there. Wraith King is pretty interesting. Like, you can see Tidehunter's win rate is starting to slide. He's only 40% in 25 games, where Wraith King is 58% in 24 games, because it's like, you got all these big ultimates, you need to use them, I'm Wraith King. Even as a support with not a lot of items, I can run at you, I can probably kill somebody, like, you have to deal with me, like, I'm Wraith King. I matter.
Yeah, I think that my guess today is that we're going to see Tidehunter start to slide off for a lot of teams. I think we'll see a Wraith King uptick, and I think we'll also see more Enigmas, keeping in mind Enigma's been picked 21 times, but he also, and Fridge just brought it up over in the Twitch chat, for those of you who are listening on the RSS or on the YouTubes, sound like an old man, on the internets. We also live stream this every morning for fans of the game. So Fridge Masters chat, so that way you can talk to us. So always feel free to join us here. But he pointed out that he is the highest win rate of any hero at 61%. Rounding up, I guess if I round up, he's at a 62% win rating right now, which is incredibly high, and he's been really strong against this, and I wondered why we didn't see more of him, against this 3-tank, 2-tank sort of core lineup that's really popular right now in the meta.
Malefice OP. We see people going 131 now just to get it out early, because it doesn't matter how tanky you are, percentage based spell, and Shadow Shaman and Enigma both are like, hey, our lineup doesn't have any push.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's add some push. We got Shadow Shaman, we got Enigma, and both of them 61%, 61.3 and 61.9% for them both. And yeah, it's cool to watch. I had another point between those heroes. Maybe I'll remember it because it has lost me.
Interestingly enough, something I saw yesterday that I did not know was true is Skywrath Mage, if he's caught in a void after he started his ulti continues.
Yeah, it's not channeling. It's just
for some reason, I always thought that it was a target cancellation effect, but I guess it doesn't. So there was one kill where Skywrath Mage got caught in a really nice void and ended up killing the void because he walked into it, and I was like, that was pretty funny. So that was good. I think we'll see a lot of Enigma. I think that we will see Brewmaster start to fall off a little bit. I think we're going to see Tidehunter fall off a lot. I think that Shadow Shaman and Mirana are going to stick exactly where they are. Razor and Doom are still going to be very, very popular. I also would not be surprised to see an uptick in Viper picks and Nature's Prophet picks today. Those are two of my calls, as well as maybe Earthshaker after what we saw yesterday, but I don't think we'll see too much new from him.
Yeah, core Earthshaker, I hope.
Yeah. So, but those are
Sand King solo. Only 10 games, 3 and 7.
Yeah.
From yesterday, Net on Titan and Kuroki on Navi EU. They're Sand King players.
Yeah. There was some there were some amazing Sand King plays, but I think that Sand King is a player-specific hero.
He makes
in a lot
big
of ways.
Plays when you're losing hero, and you're losing at that point. So.
Exactly, and I think there's he takes some really great timing to really execute well, and I think there's only a few heroes players in the tournament who really excel at that Sand King. So I think we'll see his pick stay a little bit low. That said, real quick, just so you guys know, if we do a stack chart of players so far, the average GPM, so let me see if I can pull that up right here. Just because I was curious about it, number run right now is How, and he is at an average of 561 GPM, and doing very, very well in this tournament. And there's a lot of heroes, a lot of players above the 500, but nobody sitting above the 600 as far as average GPMs or XPMs are concerned. So it's been pretty low key in that. I guess it's less of what I thought. Like, they've been doing a good job, I think, teams of holding down the carries and the hard farmers, and that's been pretty good for making some really great games. So that's our stat check-in real quick, so you guys have a rough idea of what's been happening over the last couple of days. It's going to be a huge one today. A lot of teams potentially getting knocked out or put into the you no longer have control over your own destiny category. And what we are going to do is take a quick look. So the first thing we talked about, I pulled it up on the stream so that we can really look at it, is we talked about the difficulty that VG is going to have today. I think we were talking about as far as their game lineups are concerned. So let me find them on my list. So today, or not today, in the next 2 days, VG, who's on the top of the table right now, has to play Alliance, IG, Evil Geniuses, DK, and then they, of course, have Cloud9 and Arrow, which will be a little bit easier for them. But those first 5 that I listed, those are like the titans of the event right now. So while VG is sitting pretty comfortably on the 1 position, I do not expect that to stay that way today.
Yeah, neither do I. Team Liquid on a bit of a slump, but they still have to go against them. The DK game will be pretty fun to watch. I think obviously the Chinese teams know each other a little bit better than anyone else. EG, while they won the Summit, where VG were there. Actually, a lot of the Summit teams, that VG have to play. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I think they won't lose all of them by any means. So they'll definitely remain top, and they probably will hold on to their top 2 spot. I think. I mean, their last game is against Arrow.
Right.
Oh no, it's not actually. The last game is against IG, so that's probably the most important. But they do still have to play Arrow, so that should be a win for them. But who knows? Arrow again, caged back against the wall, playing well.
Absolutely, and they are playing well. So I'm really curious to see how they do today, as they step into. Really, I think that they're gonna have a good day. So I think the first 2 games may be worth watching Arrow just to see where they go. But like I said, that actually brings me to a good transition. Let's talk about the games for today. I'm going to run through what the listings are, and then you tell me which game you think is going to be recommendation to watch. And we'll also try to keep track of like where the scores are and which ones may be relevant, not relevant. Also, I'm on Dota 2 Loud, so if I see a matchup that I think is really might be a good one to think about putting some rares on, I will mention it, and then you can make the decision for yourself. I don't want to be the mad money guy who you go and buy stocks because you listen to me and then lose it and get angry. But I will try my best to keep you abreast of where there might be a good bet opportunity for you. So, first round, pouring some more coffee here. Navi US versus Navi, VG versus DK, Fnatic versus IG, LGD versus Alliance. In this round, Alliance needs to get the win against LGD. It's going to be pretty important for them to gain a little bit of ground at this stage of the game. LGD is a team that they should be able to beat without an issue. I think that the big game, obviously, the one that'll get the most views will probably be Navi versus Navi US, though DK versus VG is massive and is probably going to be the one to watch. That's my pick for the first round.
Yeah, I'd say DK VG is probably going to be the featured stream. Maybe Navi versus Narvi. All those games are pretty big, though. Like LGD showed yesterday they can win.
Yep.
Alliance needs to win. Both those teams really need to win. Fnatic has upset big teams, so Fnatic IG should also be pretty good. But yeah, I think DK VG is going to be the game everyone wants to see because obviously 7-1 for VG, undefeated yesterday for DK, so good storyline.
Now, on a side note, a potential bet that may net you some decent profits, Navi US versus Navi EU. Right now, Dota 2 Lounge has Navi EU at the 71% favorite. So that's a 30% on the US, and I think that it could be a good value bet there as Navi US has been playing very well and is right next to them on the table. Gone up against some big teams, gotten some good upsets, and if you can beat IG, you can probably beat Navi. So that might be a bet to place, especially since I think they've been scrimming each other leading up to the tournament, and each one's going to have an interesting idea of how to deal with the other.
Yeah, they probably have. I know from watching Bulba's interview that it was Narvi and Team Liquid. They played a best-of-5 against each other like every single day for a couple weeks.
Nice.
Because no one would play them. They're sort of region-locked.
Right.
And a lot of the teams were like, no, you guys are a waste of time. Like, we're not even going to play you, especially the European team. So they were pretty isolated, and, well, they've done well.
And they have done really well. So apparently it's working. So take that, isolationism. Just like we taught you a lesson in World War II, we're teaching you a lesson right now. So moving into the second set of games. So just to be clear, our pick for that one is VG versus DK. That's the 1 and 2 spots on the table. It'll be a great game. Second round, Cloud9 v Empire, Team DK versus Titan, Arrow Gaming versus Fnatic, Mouse Sports versus So my pick for this round, and some people might raise their eyebrow at it, is going to be Arrow versus Fnatic. Both, I think, have frenetic paces. Both are very aggressive teams. And more importantly, Arrow needs to get this win to start their day right. It's the only game they play in the first 3 of today. So that means if they win this, they can actually get a point, and then they can sit back on their heels just a little bit and see how everyone else does in the first 3 rounds and get a feel for how they have to do going forward. So I think it's a big game.
Yeah, I'm going to go DK Titan. They're the teams in better standings. They're 6-3 for DK, 5-4 for Titan, so that game matters a bit more at the top of the chart.
Yeah.
And Titan hasn't had the hardest schedule either, so it'll be interesting to see them going up against DK.
Absolutely. So I think those would be 2 games. I definitely think you'll probably get by with a multicast on that one and see what you need to see. Though don't count Arrow out just yet, I guess, is the moral of my proverbial story for you here. Round 3, Empire versus LGD, DK versus Na'Vi, IG versus Liquid, and EG versus VG. No surprise here. I'm going to go EG versus VG as my pick for that round.
Just to be different, I'm going to do Team Liquid versus IG. That should be a pretty big game.
Yeah.
I mean, the US teams, or the NA teams, are getting upset by Arrow, and IG is getting upset by the NA team. So,
yep. Yeah, it's a giant Slayer opportunity for LG or Liquid, and they tend to rise to those occasions, so that should be pretty good. I don't think Na'Vi can take DK. I think that they'll put up a fight, but I think that DK's slow, systematic system would be a strong counter for them. As much as I'd love to see it go the other way, hopefully I'm proven wrong. If I am, many rares will be lost on this day. So moving into the next set, just to be clear, I'm EG versus VG, and Helium's picking Liquid versus IG. The next round of games on Series 22 are going to be Mouse versus Titan, Na'Vi US versus Newbie, Na'Vi versus Liquid, and Alliance versus VG. So at this point in the day, there's a very real chance that Mouse Sports could be out of it if they don't pick up a couple of wins. So I'm not going to make a recommendation of watching that unless Mouse starts to win out, at which point it might be worth watching because they're going to be in a desperation mode. That said, I think my pick for this round is probably going to be Na'Vi versus Liquid. They'll be right around the same point in the table, both looking to pick up a couple of things, and it should be a pretty good game for, I think, both teams. There's a good chance that either one could take it.
Yeah, I would go with the same. It's going to be my game as well.
And it's also on Dota Lounge. It's 60-40 in favor of Na'Vi. The Na'Vi 10%, as I like to call it, is in effect there.
Yeah, basically.
And that's where Na'Vi, Na'Vi gets a free 10% boost on every single rating. So if you're looking to win rares, the Na'Vi games that they can genuinely lose, you base off to how much gear you get out of it. So that's one where you may consider a bet, but it'll be pretty close. I think by the time the game starts, it'll probably be at a 55-45, so it won't be too much of a differential. The next set, we've got LGD versus IG, Na'Vi, I should say, versus Titan, Na'Vi versus DK, and Alliance versus Cloud9. I am going to watch Na'Vi DK just because it's 2 of the best teams in the world with some of the best history of these international performances, and as always, I'm sure it's going to be a barn burner. Like, both teams will pull out their special strats for each other here.
Yeah, they're both the 2 teams that can come into a big tournament like this with so many games in a big group stage and evolve. I mean, last night Puppy and Kuroki were both saying that DK are probably the best team at evolving throughout a tournament.
Yeah.
And Na'Vi are probably second, honestly. They are really, really good. So that is most definitely the game to watch. But Alliance Cloud9, again, pretty similar standings. Alliance must win. 5-4, 4-5. Obviously, that'll change by this point because they have some games. But still going to be pretty close. Still going to be important. So that's runner-up, I think.
And they now keep in mind, they don't announce, Multicast doesn't announce ahead of time who they're featuring. I'm 99% sure it'll be Na'Vi DK as the featured game. And that would be a good multicast watch because they'll be jumping to the relevant plays at the Alliance Cloud9 and the Na'Vi versus Titan. So that would be a good one to switch over to the multicast. I think the coverage will be just about right regarding the pace from each of those different teams. So moving to the next series, Empire EG, Mouse Sports Fnatic, Liquid versus VG, and Newbie versus Arrow Gaming. My pick for this one is I think Empire will have a mediocre day today. They've got some tough stuff in their lineup. They're really going to need to win this game against EG, though I don't know that it's a possibility. That said, I still think it'll probably be the best game of this round in terms of enjoyment to watch as a viewer. It should be aggressive. There should be some early gank attempts. I would assume team fights, and probably no longer than 35 minutes.
Yeah, I think my game to watch here, though, is probably going to be Liquid and VG Gaming. Depending on the scoreline. If Liquid just, like, tanks today, then that game's not going to be as cool.
Right.
But if they do well, if VG keeps doing well, or maybe even they slump a little bit, that's going to be a really, really tight game, and probably the game itself, but also in terms of the standings.
Yep, absolutely. And just to be clear on Dota Lounge is 42-58, so even Dota Lounge at this point has it a very close game. So that should be a lot of fun to watch. Next round, Cloud9 versus IG, Navi versus Aero, Titan versus LGD, Newbie versus Team DK. I think LGD Titan are probably going to be the closest in terms of matchup here. I don't really love the 4 games here, so that's probably when I'll take my lunch break.
Nice. Well, the Chinese... Well, I guess what you would have called the Chinese powerhouses,
right.
Newbie not having the best showing here, which is interesting because Newbie was like the dark horse, right? Like no team from any other region had really played them. I think Alliance played them once at ESL or something like that. But these guys know each other. Newbie has beat DK recently in tournaments over in China. Like I think Newbie won the Mars TV thing, so they know each other, and it should be good. Also, the storyline of like the whole nationalist thing from Zhao 8 against DK. Who knows how true it was?
Right.
But I'm sure it's weighing on their minds a little bit.
Absolutely. It's going to lend some drama to it, if nothing else. So that should be fun on those. Second to last series of the day, Na'Vi versus EG, Liquid versus Alliance, LGD versus Mouse, and then Newbie versus Empire. I'm going to watch Na'Vi versus EG just because I want to see some good US on US violence. America. So that's our pick. It may not be the best game. I think Liquid Alliance will probably be a more relevant game at that point as far as seeding positions are concerned. But Na'Vi versus EG should be good. These guys play against each other a lot. They're all part of the same scrim groups. So I would not be surprised to see them do their thing. And finally, last picks. IG, Navi, VG versus Cloud9, Titan, Liquid, Empire, Fnatic. What's your picks for this one?
Well, Empire Fnatic should be epic on both sides of the coin. Like, if they're both eliminated at this point, it should be epic. And if neither of them are eliminated at this point, or even one of them isn't, it should be epic. So that honestly could be the game to watch there.
Absolutely. So, sorry, my wife came in. Tell me one more time, which one was your pick?
Fnatic Empire.
Yeah, I think that'll be good. That's going to be a do or die game most likely, and there's a good chance that'll be one of the last games of the day too. So it may be the one that we're all watching together as the other games wrap up. So I would definitely say that's a good pick. I think IG and Navi will be pretty close at that point as well. But all they're going to be doing at this point is feuding for who has a higher seed going into the next round. So those are our picks for the day. I think those are games that will be worth watching. For you guys as you go into your afternoon and try to pick what do I spend my time on. And now I think that was pretty much it. I do want to take a quick look at Arrow's roster. Arrow's games coming up. So Arrow, who's in elimination position, has to beat Navi, they have to beat Empire, they have to beat VG, they have to beat Newbie, they have to beat Fnatic. Those are the teams they have to beat to stay in this tournament. And I think that's a pretty tall order. I think they'll put up a good fight today, but I think we see Arrow most likely eliminated. Mouse Sports has to defeat EG. They have to defeat Titan. They have to defeat Fnatic. They have to defeat NAR, LGD, and Liquid. So Mouse Sports has a much easier schedule for the remainder of the tournament, so they could potentially get back in this, but unless they make some big moves today that are very different from what they did in the last 2 days, I don't know that they can get themselves back up out of that ditch that they're in right now. Do you have any other thoughts on the table, dark horses that we should look to make a rise today, or any top teams that you think are going to have a fall from grace?
Well, I think Cloud9 and Team Liquid could maybe fall from grace, and also Newbie. They had a rough day. It could happen again. Alliance, I'm looking for them to rise up, I think, today.
Yeah, I think so.
And then other teams I obviously really wanted to see in the finals, or at least the next stage, but maybe won't. Fnatic and Navi in North America. So we'll see what happens. But if the top 10 stays as it is now, I'm pretty happy with that. There's a lot of variety from each region. Europe is,
Yeah.
I guess, underrepresented, honestly.
Very much so. It's
No,
actually
no,
really
it would
impressive.
just be Navi and Alliance, so like the classic teams that everybody knows, and
Yep.
it, I don't know, like might even hurt viewership, like if Navi and Alliance don't make it to the main stage, but I doubt it. I think 10 million plus, probably 11
Yeah.
million by the time it really ends, will be a big draw for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think that Europeans are fans of the tournament, apart from just teams. I think, for instance, if Titans knocked out, that's a big hit for viewership in the terms of, I think a lot of SCA fans will probably stop watching. But I think that Europe is the same as the U.S. I mean, in past years, the U.S. has lost their teams wicked early. And
Well, we're used to that.
Yeah,
Europe
we're still
isn't.
tuned in. That's true. They're used to having their champions there. So it'll be interesting. I also was thinking about the other day, and it's interesting to me that, like, we have three essentially national teams for North America, whereas when we talk about the European teams, there's not even that many like solidly single state teams, if that makes sense. Almost everybody is a cross position of the region, so it's hard for you can't really watch in a nationalist sense in the way that U.S. fans can sort of sit back and be like, "That's an American. What's up?"
Yeah, it's true.
So it's kind of an interesting dichotomy, an interesting emergence in the gaming world. I'm curious to see how that goes over the next year. It's a lot easier to sell products and get fans when you're a nationalistic team. So that'll be pretty interesting. So that's our recap slash promotion for today. Things that you need to know going forward with Dota. So if all you care about is Dota, that's pretty much what we got for you in terms of what you need to know. We'll do a quick update on a couple of things we talk about every day, including the 5 things you should know for the news, just so that you can impress your boss or teacher. And then obviously the potato salad update is incoming right now. And the potato salad update is that Mr. Zach Danger Brown is up to $46,000 for his bowl of potato salad. So for those of you who don't know, he made a joke with some friends where he set up stretch goals of $35 and $75 originally to see if he could get people to give him money to make potato salad for him and his friends. The internet got a hold of it, and now he has almost 5.7 thousand backers, giving him a total of $46,000 with 22 days left to go. So I don't think Zach was quite prepared for this level of exposure. But hey, he will have literally made probably enough money to take the year off and do whatever he wants after this, or pay his student loan bills. So
Yeah, more like make a shit ton of potato salad.
that's true. He invited the entire internet to the party. But I think $46,000, you can probably rent a big hall and make as much potato salad as you want and still have some left over.
Yeah, that is something you can just make, like, by the truckload.
Right.
So.
It'd be hilarious to actually have, like, people, like, backers volunteer to come in and smash potatoes, and him just have a truck boated in from Idaho, which he could probably do for that amount of money. So, pretty interesting. 5 things that you need to know to start your day. There's a standoff going on. So for those North American fans and some abroad, this may pertain to some of you. We're having a big funding standoff right now. Obama and Congress are at war over $3.7 billion in emergency funding to help deal with illegal immigration of children out of Central America. I repeat, that's $3.7 billion in emergency funding, and neither side wants to give, and basically both are arguing about whether or not you should use that money. And that's a copious amount of money. I mean, that's a lot of cash to deal with the crisis going down near the border right now.
I don't see how it could honestly cost that much. Like,
I don't know either. It's probably like toilet seats are $6 million for the U.S. government. So
yeah, that's true.
It's
I
one of
don't
those.
know, like, if
yeah,
you're
it's tough.
constructing a massive wall on the border of every
Right.
country we border, then I can see that price tag. But they're not, obviously, and they shouldn't. 'Cause that would be ridiculous.
Because
I don't know.
because we're not the Han Dynasty fighting Genghis Khan. Like, it's not
Exactly,
They're
yeah.
not coming at us with horses trying to start a war. This is a legitimate thing that's going to go irregardless of a wall, or regardless of a wall. Anybody who thinks a wall is a solution is crazy. Sorry if you feel that way, but there's tunnels currently crossing the border that would make a wall completely irrelevant. That said, though, lots of arguments. In fact, that's leading to the number 2 issue, which is the GOP, the Republican Party in the United States of America, has announced that they are going to sue Obama. There was literally a joke apparently a week ago where Obama was in a speech to the Congress, and they said, "You can't do this," and he said, "I'm gonna do it, so sue me," as a joke. The GOP is actually filing a lawsuit against Obama, saying that he's violated the Constitution by unilaterally delaying the requirement for businesses to provide coverage. So basically, they turned it around and were like, "You want this? We're going to sue you for that. Take that offhanded comment." And it's kind of hilarious how clowny. For those of you who are from other countries, maybe you have never thought about how you always think maybe your government's crazy. They're having fights in their assembly halls. Our Congress has literally just turned into a bunch of clowns who get out of their clown cars every day and go in and put on a big circus in the middle of the Capitol and then go home.
And get paid too much.
And get paid a copious amount of money to do it.
Some of them deserve it. I would say most of them probably don't.
And the ones who do deserve it are quickly getting voted out of office, which is the crazy part. So, I don't know what's going to happen to America. Hopefully, EG wins, or some American team wins the TI, because we're going to need something to smile about as Congress falls apart.
I'm pretty sure we'll be governed by Comcast in the next 4 years.
It's incredible. All right, so that's the updates on sort of the North American news scene. So now you sound super smart when you go talk about politics. Second, there is, and this is a big one, the residents of Gaza are a little bit scared right now. For those of you who don't know, the Gaza Strip is just outside it. Well, it's an argued area between Palestinians and Israeli. It is a situation where there's a lot of violence. There was right through the 90s to the early 2000s. There was a couple of misconceptions potentially that caused both sides to put their hackles up last week. And now Israel has announced that there are 30,000 reservists being called up to fortify their military forces. In quotations, we're ready to go if we need to go. Meanwhile, rockets are flying from the Gaza Strip, while Israel is also peppering the Palestinian territory with airstrikes. So the Palestinians are saying, we don't have anything to do with what's happening in Gaza. Like, it's coming out of there on their own accord. And Israel is saying, I don't think that's true. Rockets are going back and forth, and all you need to know now is the fact that Israel has summoned up over 30,000 additional troops, so we could very legitimately have a open armed conflict between those two areas in the next couple of weeks. So that's another thing that when you talk about that, people are going to be like, wow, you're super smart about outside things. So that's what we want to give you.
You must not be American.
You must not be American. And finally, in the online arms race, and if you guys don't know, there's this. You should know, because we're all gamers, that there's constantly a battle of like who can get the fastest internet, right? Like, where can I get the best stuff? And there's a company called Bell's Lab who has set a record of 10 gigabytes per second. So that's
gigabytes or gigabits?
Gigabits. I'm sorry. No, it's gigabits. So that is 1,000 times faster than traditional broadband speeds right now. And they did it on copper wires, not fiber optic lines. So this is... It's not going to be in play just yet, but it's a big development, as it means, I believe, if I remember correctly, copper is still cheaper than fiber optic to lay.
I would think so. Although copper, I guess, is fairly expensive.
Yeah, copper's expensive now, but I think fiber optics are still really, really tough to manage. Whereas copper is just wicked durable. So imagine your internet 1,000 times faster on copper lines, and they've developed the technology to do it. Now it's just an issue of if Comcast will ever let us have it.
No, they won't.
No, they won't. So
well, maybe, because I think Google Fiber is giving them a real scare.
Yeah.
If you're in an area with Google Fiber, Comcast is calling you, be like, "Hey, we'll double your speeds for free. Don't leave us. We're the devil."
It is, yeah. I don't know what's going to happen. But that said, it's good to see the developments are coming out as far as the technology is going. So that's your news for the day. Pretty simple things that you need to know. Obviously, the World Cup final is on the way this weekend. It's going to be
for Germany.
Yeah, Argentina versus Germany. Germany should take the win, no problem, which will make all of us Americans feel better about our 1-0 loss to them. I'm sorry, not 1-0. It ended up being 2-1, if I remember the final score.
Yeah, I think so.
It was 2-1, which we already feel better about after the debacle that they had against Brazil. And Tim Howard is still a god in the United States and will continue to be after that performance. So that's your news for the day. That's pretty much all I have. Do we have any closing thoughts from you, Helium, before we close out the show this morning?
It's not a surprise that Germany is probably going to win the World Cup or at least get second place. They're like the only well-rounded team in every position in the entire tournament. So, like, their star player didn't even make the roster because he got hurt, Marco Reus. So, obviously, you can see they're still very stacked. They've got the leading World Cup goal scorer of all time in Miroslav Klose, and tons of big names everyone recognizes because they've been in so many World Cups. You've got Schweinsteiger, Podolski, Klose, Mueller. So, yeah, they're good. And, obviously, the team I'm rooting for and have been since 2006 when I started watching soccer because I was in Germany for the World Cup. So
nice. Yeah, it was. They have been phenomenal. So that said, if you like what you heard today, summary. You can follow Helium Umbrella on Twitter. I have his thing on the Twitch, but I'll give it to you guys here as well. It's at Helium Umbrella. One word. Actually, it's Heliumbrella. Heliumbrella.
You're such a noob. Yeah.
It's so hard to say. It's straight through Helium Brella. Just like the two words are put together, sort of like Brangelina or something like that. You can follow him on Twitter, get updates of what projects he's working on. He will be working with Sivo in the upcoming season, so look to see him doing some big anchor stuff there. And also, I assume you're staying with Join Dota for their upcoming league as well.
Yeah, it should be.
So we'll see.
Casting a lot post TI4, so
yeah. Do you have any contracts in place for post TI4, or is it still waiting for the thing to end so that people start having tournaments again?
Yeah, it's kind of waiting for it to end. I'm obviously going to go to TI4. I want to meet up with a lot of the people that I have worked with. Obviously, Cap and Toby.
Right.
Probably Melk and Zoe as well from Join Dota. So get some ins there. See where that can take us. Obviously, I want to hang out with the High Ground TV guys. Who knows what that might lead to. So maybe casting for them. Who really knows? Although I think they have people in mind, and I would assume it's Ryu Boruz, but I don't really know. Because everyone's looking to pick up that the X-Pro / Pro player commentator, and Ryu does a pretty good job. I don't know if Analyst Desk is his best role, but he's been doing okay. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Obviously, I know Gods as well. I've actually met Gods before, so I'll probably go find him as well.
So, Helium headed to TI, and I will probably try to tap him from the hotel room periodically to call in and give us just little updates on how awesome TI is going. I might even just sound clip him and edit you in so you don't have to wake up early.
Well, it's 3 hours behind. So
exactly.
You'd have to push your show away later.
Exactly. So, that said, that's the show for today, guys. If you like the show, follow the channel. It's twitch.tv/Toffees_Dota2. Follow me on Twitter at Toffees_Dota2. I've got links to everything that gets put up. And obviously our YouTube channel will be linked in Twitter. You can watch them on replay there. I'm also working on an RSS so that we can start putting this into a podcast format and making it easier for you to access. We'll be making a lot of changes post TI4 to kind of develop the show into something a little bit bigger and a little more consistent. So if you like it, share it with your friends. Help us grow so that we can keep getting guys like Helium to be willing to come in and talk with us. And that is something that's pretty important to making us successful. So we appreciate your support as always. And we'll play some music for you before we cap out the day. But that's about it. Any last words?
Just follow me on Twitter, I guess. That clearly means a lot. Like, when people look at you to hire you for tournaments, they look at your Twitter follower number as kind of mundane as that is, I guess.
Yep.
But, I mean, it's how many people you can, reach out to when you tweet. Like, hey, I'm going live to 4,000 people. Seems a lot better than, hey, I'm going live to 200.
Yep.
If you're an organizer. So, yeah, at Heliumbrella. Yeah, hard to find. That doesn't help, but find it.
That said, guys, we appreciate you spending the morning with us. A long show, but it's just because it's TI, and I'm sure afterwards we'll go back to our half-hour format. But that said, enjoy some music. We'll hang out on Twitch for a little while. I'll probably cut the stream so that I can get the highlight up, and then be right back for a little bit of chatting. But that said, thanks for joining us, and as always, Toffee's out.